Talking to us from San Jose, California, is Robert Ward, who is the winner of the short screenplay contest for his script, The Final Job. How's it going, Robert?
Oh, it's going really great today.
Okay, so you got the reading online. You've seen what we've done with your script, just the live reading. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, I really enjoyed the reading, and I think what I really took away from it was how exuberant the actors were. They really got into their parts, and I think the lead character, you could tell that he wants that role so bad that his mouth was watering. I think he found the perfect role for himself, playing a kind of a punk-ass surfer demon, and I think he just really got into that part. And I've gotten a lot of compliments on the reading, and I was very impressed. Probably the most thing I was impressed of is how many people have actually watched it in just over a week. I mean, we've had over 1,000 views, and I was really impressed by that.
It's going to get a lot more views. That's what we do, right? We give you an audience.
Yep, that's very impressive.
And the funny thing about this script is that the narrator, who was narrating 2 other scripts that night, we did 3 scripts in one night, and she was just so enthusiastic to do this script. Like she seemed to step it up a little, an extra notch, and compared to the other 2 scripts. Like, and she just said, "This is the baby. This is what she wanted to do." So that's your compliment right there.
That is fantastic, and I can tell in the way she was reading it. I could tell that this person likes poetry, and she's obviously a fan of the written word. And I think there's just some poetic writing to the script that she probably really, in the narrative that she really got into, and that came across.
So thematically, what's your short script about?
I would say it's about survival of that ever-present. There's an ever-present motif, and that's death, and it's always lurking about. Not to be heavy and Debbie Downer here, but it's just for each of us, death is always right there. Whether you're crossing the street or getting on a plane or just swinging. This girl was swinging at a farm, at a family farm out in the middle of nowhere, and this creepy guy shows up, and he's there to take all 3 of them. So you just never know. Death is always lurking about.
And we're all going to die, right? So that's kind of the one guarantee.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I actually, for some reason, I thought that I was going to be able to get out of that, and I just found that such a horrible, horrible concept that I was actually going to die. And same thing with my grandma. I remember having a picture of her when I was a little kid, and just loving this old lady so much, and I had a hard time thinking that she was going to die, and then I was reflecting on my own, fear of that. So I think I have a real huge fear of death. I just don't want to die.
But isn't it worse to live forever and then everybody you love is gone and you just kind of stay fragile?
That is a good point. I mean, you would just have to be good at making friends. You'd have to. If you lived forever, you would have to. The bottom line is you'd have to be really good at, making new friends and friends that could become family members. So you just have to. It almost be like a vampire movie where you have these other, people that lived forever, and you have this weird creepy family that you manufactured.
But there's that movie. What is that movie? The Green Mile, and basically his punishment is staying alive.
Yeah, that is a really good movie. I like that movie a lot.
But because he's fragile, so he kind of stays in the old state, and he's going to live forever, right?
Yeah. God, it was a great role for him. To see such a big guy like that, because a lot of times they don't get that tender type of role. You're usually typecast when you're a big hulking kind of lunk, and he was just a massive guy, but he really tapped into the gentleness of that character.
So this short script, you said in your profile that you've written 11 other shorts?
Yes, I have.
And is this your favorite?
I have a bunch of them that I really, really like. I think this is my favorite though because of the success it's had. So there's a favorability factor there for it. But I've written some other things that something to do with a homeless guy. There's one the Doughboy Soldier, about a doughboy who's pretty much just hangs out on a modern tank, and a little kid spots him through some binoculars, and it's just just a little 5-minute short. And I've written a bunch of 5-minute shorts that are I try to go for maximum power with as little exhaust fumes as possible.
And do you want to make this into a film? Like, is that your plan, or what do you want to do with it?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely. More than anything, I think The Final Job would make a great film. And not only that, but I think it would be a great feature. I've been, ever since I wrote it, I thought this would be a cool feature film. And it's because of the character. The demon character is just a kind of a wise-ass punk surfer, kind of a Southern California surfer punk. And as far as I know, I don't think there's any other demon roles like that. And then that's kind of what Hollywood's always looking for, is a unique spin or take on a character, a typical character. I just don't know of any other character like that. And I think people would really love to see a character like that, because he could be funny, but he's also creepy, and he is dangerous.
I apologize for giving away the twist with this question, but the characters is in the imagination of the girl, right? So that's what.
Mm-hmm.
So it was funny. What I found funny is that he's kind of like a coast, like kind of like a liberal, or kind of like a, you know what I mean, like a granola cruncher. Whereas like the characters in the movie, like the characters on the farm are like kind of like conservative in nature. I thought there was like a kind of like an underlying political kind of spin on this short.
Yes, it is, and it could be a result of just some personal stuff, because I myself am a very liberal person, but I have some friends that are extremely conservative, and I have some friends in the Midwest, and I lived in Tennessee for about 5 years, so I got to see the other side.
I didn't know there was a liberal allowed in Tennessee. I thought they stopped you at the border.
It's true, and I have to give credit to these people. We lived about 20 miles outside of Memphis, and it turns from a city into hardcore countryville very quickly. I mean, by the time you get 20 miles out, the political spectrum has completely, flip-flopped. And I'll say one thing about these people, because, there were a couple of nice little drinking establishments that I like to hang out in back there. And they kind of adopted me into their little friendship circle. And I was kind of like their little token liberal, but and they'd give me some gentle, good-natured ribbing. I got invited to one of their pool parties once, and these people were all into their, super conservative ideology, and I was like the one, the funny liberal that they kind of.
But isn't that like someone who's like being talked about as being racist, so they find like a token like minority to be their friend, so that they can say that they're not racist?
Yeah, exactly. And they probably found me very entertaining, because I didn't think like them. I mean, they all thought the same. They all thought alike. And then you get this creative type person who says the weirdest things, and not only that, but maybe gives them a hug upon meeting or goodbye. So they probably just, I think it just rocked their world. These weren't big huggers. They weren't, they didn't think outside the box. They didn't think of these weird stories, and I think it just rocked their world. And I think they enjoyed it though, because they obviously enjoyed it, because they pulled me into their little friendship circles.
But don't you ever get in? I guess there's two types of like conservatives. There's like, or I guess they kind of blend into each other. But the social conservative that is basically anti-abortion or whatever the big issue is, the gay rights or whatever like that. There's a huge. As we're doing this podcast, there's a big issue on what's that show where everybody's growing their beards on that A&E show.
Yeah, that's a big thing right now. Duck Dynasty.
Duck Dynasty. So, but basically, there's that social aspect, but then there's also the conservative that just has the ideology of how to run a country or how to run a state, like about less taxes, about like basically about like less government kind of a thing. So I guess there's two types of conservatives, right?
Oh yes, there are.
Yeah.
That's so true, so true. I mean, I could talk about that for an hour and a half. Yeah, the thing
but just to go tie into your script, because it was like you can kind of tell that it was very much there, but not like over the top, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
In fact, you see them interacting like that. He interacts with the girl like that, and also with her father, the old grizzled farmer guy. And at one point, the farmer even says, "Fuck you, hippie," in response to something. He just, it really is a city versus rural, city versus country motif going on here in that script throughout the whole thing.
And so you also written like more than a few features as well, and you're trying to get that kind of like workshopped or kind of like seen by the world or the industry?
Yeah, I have a script called Flat Pennies, and it is a labor of love. It's the most complex script I've ever worked on, and it was my first script, and it's really interesting, Matthew, that I would attempt to do this as a first script. It's way too ambitious for somebody that doesn't really have the skill for that. I mean, it's like it would be like writing a combination of Inception, Brazil, The Sixth Sense, and The Usual Suspects all jumbled together and do that as your first script. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, especially with daydream sequences and flashbacks, and also with two bombshell endings back to back. So it's an extremely complex script, but I just love the story. The story is just so cool, and that was the one I just won third runner-up at the screenplay replay contest, where they're going to allow me to turn that into a novel. So it's going to get even more complex because I'll be able to really get into some of this weird, the weird aspects of this main character and his, the second protagonist. So it's going to be very, it's going to be very, very complex.
And this is your dream, like you want to be a screenwriter, like you've done writing for a long time, but you want to move into this kind of job full time, right?
Yeah, it is. I was a journalist since about '86. I got my first paycheck for Beer Magazine, and
there's a beer magazine.
There used to be. I might still be out there, but it was funny. I was a history major, and I was focusing on Prohibition, and so I wrote a piece for them. And it was published, I think, just a couple weeks before I graduated from UCSC, and so I was, it's kind of cool to be a published, writer before graduating, and it was about a piece on Prohibition. So, I've been a journalist all this time. I actually had some pretty good success as a journalist. I've won about 5 awards. I actually, in '98, I think it was, I won first and second place for editorial at the San Francisco Chronicle and the San Francisco Examiner. So I took both of those awards, and I wasn't even working at either paper. I was a freelancer. So at the award ceremony, it was pretty neat to go up there and have all those people go like, wow, he doesn't even work at both those papers, but he took first and second in editorial. So, I want to, just kind of the journalism thing started fading away. A lot of it had to do with the internet, and the old school newspaper work kind of faded away, and I didn't really adapt to the internet style of journalism, and tinkered with it, but I was just such an old school guy, and then decided to do the screenwriting about 6 or 7 years ago.
But do you have a lot of like your journalistic kind of like expertise thrown into the script about like, is that?
Oh yeah, the good question, Matt. Great question, actually, because the reason why that's a good question is there's the expertise that I can bring with me, especially with everything from copy editing, proofreading, to the creativity, the drive, all of that kind of stuff. That coming, to be able to manufacture a unique story, because I was a columnist for a couple of years, and so each week, and it was a weekly column, so I would usually wait till the last second and pound something out in an hour or two. And
that seems like a pretty good job.
Yeah, it was a really cool job. I loved that job. And that newspaper kind of started cutting back, and I lost the column. They replaced it with something that they were able to purchase for $15 a week. The Click and Clack, the automotive, these two automotive guys that were syndicated.
Yeah.
So the paper was cutting costs, and away I went. But the reason that was such a good question of yours is because not only were the benefits of my experience as a journalist came into play when I wanted to be a screenwriter, but there were negatives, and the negatives for me are my dialogue. My dialogue in screenwriting is, it's just a work in progress. I worked so hard to fix my dialogue, and it started out extremely on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still, to this day, that is probably my greatest weakness, is trying to craft real beautiful, believable dialogue, and I work on that so hard.
Because people generally don't say what they're really feeling, right?
Yeah,
so
it's all subtext. You always
yeah.
have subtext dialogue. And for me, I think the reason why my dialogue wasn't so good, and it still could use work, as probably all of us until we get, until we become, Sorkin, until we get to that level, we all have to work on our dialogue. But I think it's because of my training as a journalist, where you're trained to write quotes a certain way.
Yeah.
And they can be, they're just kind of dry and matter of fact. So to try to make them, because you're writing exactly what the person's saying. And then in screenwriting, you're not writing exactly what they're saying.
But also structurally, you generally say what the most important facts in the first paragraph, and then people will scan and then maybe read till the end. This is like the average, the average kind of like a reader of a newspaper. So you're giving all the strengths in the first paragraph, whereas in the script, you're kind of like, you gotta like kind of like finesse the like what you're going to give the reader, like in terms of exposition and in terms of storytelling, right? Like whereas like the style is much different. Yeah,
that's so true. They're almost diametrically opposed.
Yeah.
Think about it. I think you touched on that, and in journalism they had there was a saying: tell them something and then tell them what you just told them.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, you could just read the lead of the lead of something, and then if you look through the rest of the piece, especially on a news story, they're just telling you exactly the same thing. They're just kind of expanding on it and throwing in a few quotes.
Yeah, 100%.
And people would tell me, they would ask me how to write school papers, and I always say, well, take that first paragraph and then copy that and then paste that at the very end, and that would be your conclusion, and just simply rewrite that a little bit, and then just fill in the middle part.
And it's just funny, but at the same time, a lot of great, like investigative journalism, a lot of great stories that were in magazines or newspapers have been made into great films, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like Hunter S. Thompson is probably one of my favorites. I love the Gonzo journalists and Tom Wolfe, and I got even Mencken. Of course, that was back in the day, but these guys had just great skills, storytelling skills. One of the best. Oh God, you had Thurber and E.B. White. I recommend to any writer out there that wants to learn storytelling as far as from an emotional standpoint. There's probably nobody better than E.B. White, and you can get his. I think there's a thing called the Essays of E.B. White, or the Stories of E.B. White, something like that. And it's a collection of his columns, and they're fantastic. Death of a Pig is probably one of the best stories you'll ever read. And I like to study E.B. White because his his control of sentences and syntax is just incredible. I mean, you just learn from these old masters, and that's what I did when I first, I think I put this in the interview that you allowed me to do for Wildsound, the 10 questions. I had mentioned that I had I didn't want to just be a writer back when I started. I wanted to be a great writer. So I burned my eyeballs out studying every aspect of the craft that you can think of, and studied it real long and hard, and then developed my own style. And still learning to this day. Yesterday I watched the first DVD of a Michael Haig series with Chris Vogler. They did this thing called Heroes 2 Journeys. It is real nice stuff on creating a great hero in your story. So here it is, all these years later, since 1986, and I'm still studying my butt off.
You never stop learning. Like once you stop learning, you cease to exist in terms of what you're talking about. Before we leave you though, like you're talking about all this like studying and stuff like that. Like give me a TV show that you love, like you're inspired by, and give me like a movie you've seen recently that you're been inspired by in terms of learning and being inspired and like in helping your career out as well.
Well, I like oddball stuff. I really love oddball stuff. Like last night I was watching The League, and it's just really just weird stuff, and I love weird, really like weird things, weird shows. Workaholics is another one. I like, comedies. I used to really like Sunny and Philly. Testes is one of my, I love Testes. If you ever get a chance, you got to watch Testes. Just really oddball, questionable, crazy stuff that's probably not going to be on ABC, NBC, or CBS. I mean,
it probably wouldn't even be on HBO. You're talking about like kind of like darker comedy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, and you know what? And HBO's got some really great shows. God, I really liked. What's the guy's name? Larry David.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, that's a great one. And let's see, there was another one that it wasn't really super popular, but it had a lot of critical acclaim.
Was it a sitcom?
Yeah, it was.
Who's in it?
Oh God, what is it? What are those? Yeah, I kind of just drawn a blank here. Yeah, I can't think of it. It'll come to me in a second.
What's the plot or situation?
It's the Bluth family. The guy drives around in the truck with the stairs on it, and it's like an airline pickup truck that's got the stairs.
Oh, it's Arrested Development.
Yeah.
That was on actually Fox. That wasn't HBO. That's why you got me confused.
I love that show. That's a good one.
What about a movie like? So it seems like you're into the darker comedy, like kind of like the one camera comedy sitcoms.
Mm-hmm. And very controversial stuff. Like Extras, I really loved Extras a lot. Ricky Gervais's work is great for comedy, and in fact, his what's his name, Stephen Merchant, his partner.
Yeah, his ladies' man.
His new thing.
Yeah,
I actually like that, and then I think the critics, I'm not sure if they're really liking it that much. The guy from Hollywood Reporter, who used to write for the Chronicle, I forgot his name. It's
But go ahead, yeah.
I forgot. What was it?
No, sorry. Just what was your point? What were you going to say?
Oh, that that character is really he's funny, and the critics just don't like him. And it's the ladies. I think it was Hello Ladies.
Well, you know what it is though, like because we'll get off topic because we have to like finish us off. But it's like Ricky Gervais should be playing that character. It's like he's doing a version of Ricky Gervais playing that character.
Yeah. Exactly. In fact, that's a great point. Great observation, Matt. Because in an episode of Extras, there is a scene where Merchant actually says that to some people in a bar, and that's what he would do. He'd go, hello, ladies.
Yeah.
He's like kind of trying to be a pickup artist, but he was just so horrible at it. And
so it sounds like you're on your way. Like it sounds like you're on your way. This is a terrific short. It's like probably the best short that we've had read and it was very that's the great thing about doing something like this, is that you get myself and the camera people and the casting director and the actors itself and the narrator, and everybody was really gun ho to do this reading, where that's not always the case. You know what I mean?
Boy, that sounds fantastic.
And it makes it better. You know what I mean? It makes the script better. And let's just try to. I'll do anything I can. I think the script should be made into a film. I think it will do very well.
Yeah, you know what? I remember. I think I mentioned that to you a week or two ago. That I guess I kind of almost flippant about it, saying, "Well, I guess we got to do a Kickstarter thing now." Because I think you had all these. You know what? When you get enough people together. And by enough, it could be a dozen people that are really behind a project. You'd be surprised what you can do with that type of, that little nucleus. That it's almost like a thermonuclear reaction that starts going off. And to do a short, I don't think you'd need a gargantuan amount of money. In fact, I even thought about as far as what we would need to do to make that film. To even lessen the cost, if you didn't want to do CG on the combine scene where it comes through the front of the guy's house, just have him, he could be killed on the porch. And it could just be done with some tricky camera work. But, that way you could just bring the combine up against the house and not actually drive into it.
Well,
that's the cool thing about a horror film. In reality, a combine's not going to chew up the front of a living room, but horror films, that's what they do. So,
well, Robert, congratulations again, and looking forward to you showcasing another script of yours in the future, and let us know what we can do, anything that we can do to help you with your new Kickstarter campaign.